If you've ever felt stressed or intimidated by repeated loan recovery calls, there could be some major relief coming your way. In a significant move to protect borrowers from harassment, the Reserve Bank of India has proposed new norms to regulate how banks and lenders recover pending loans and, most importantly, how recovery agents interact with customers. Under the new proposed framework, recovery agents will not be allowed to call borrowers after 7 p.m. This is being seen as a strong step towards ensuring dignity and mental well-being for customers who often complain about aggressive and intimidating recovery tactics. But that's not all. Here's what changes. The employee or recovery agent will only interact with the borrower and not the guarantor. They have been advised to not approach or contact relatives or acquaintances of the borrower, but only contact the borrower or their guarantor. The borrower is to be contacted at a location of their choice. If no preference is specified, contact can be made at the borrower's residence or their place of work or business. Recovery calls or visits cannot be made during sensitive or inappropriate occasions such as bereavement in the family, natural calamities, marriage functions, festivals or similar events. The central bank is also introducing mandatory certification for recovery agents. This means that agents will now have to undergo proper training and meet professional conduct standards before interacting with borrowers. The idea is simple. Recovery of loans must happen, but it must happen fairly, respectfully, and within defined ethical boundaries. Another key highlight of the new framework is the creation of structured grievance redressal systems. Borrowers who feel harassed or mistreated will now have clearer channels to file complaints and seek action against recovery agents or lending institutions. These guidelines are expected to come into effect from 1st of July and will apply across commercial banks, small finance banks, payment banks, regional rural banks and local area banks as well. The move comes amid rising complaints of harassment, mental stress and coercive recovery methods used by agents. The RBI's proposed framework signals a shift towards balancing financial discipline with customer rights and humane treatment that they rightfully deserve. On the show with me is Dr. Ashok K. Nag. He's a former advisor to RBI. Dr. Nag, thank you very much for taking time out, sir. I think it's a brilliant move there by RBI, finally realizing that customers, whether they pay or they don't pay, whether they can pay or cannot pay, have the right to dignity. How they are spoken with, how they are interacted with is as crucial as lending out loan.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting and required kind of a steps taken by Reserve Bank of India for a long time. But I think the problem will be in the kind of implementations. Okay, what kind of complaint, what kind of problem can come? Now, question is that recovery agents are not employees of the banks mostly. Okay, now once you bring this kind of a all kind of a restrictions on their performance on the day. Now, whether there will be a demand for higher kind of a remunerations for any kind of recovery happens there. Now, question remains that whether the banks will be able to absorb that cost or not. This is something not very clear to me, and only the banks officials or the banks they can tell us that whether that particular increase in your cost of maintaining the recovery structure or recovery practice will be absorbed by the bank or it will be given to the borrowers also. It will be I mean, you can also write in your agreement of the borrowing that any cost will for the happening or the multiple kind of a suppose approach you have to make and the cost of that whether it will be recovered from this. These are the main issue is that there is absolutely no kind of a second opinion about the circular issued this requirement. It is a kind of thing. Absolutely no problem. This has to be done maybe. But question is that in India, country like India, in the rural areas, how do we implement these things? What will be the kind of a the hurdles will be met by the recovery agents and the bank's policy. This has to be worked out. Maybe RBI. It is not the RBI's problem as such.
I mean,
has
at least
given
there is
the
a
circular
guide,
properly.
right? Absolutely, Dr. Nag. At least there's a set of guidelines, do's and don'ts, and I think more importantly, the fact that recovery agents should also be trained in conduct. To me, I think that stands out because often we see, recovery agents are like goons.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
come to your home, They intimidate, they harass, they threaten, they call up your relatives, they threaten to show up at your workplace and use all kind of aggressive tactics to ensure you pay up, even when sometimes a person cannot pay up. So I think the fact that they will be trained on how to behave, it stands out for me as an important move.
That is absolutely, from the overall perspective, there is absolutely no issue about this rule. Okay,
Right.
but main issue is that what is these implementation problems will be there. For examples, when I am having the all the registrations done by the recovery agents or the things like that, whether that will impact the loans at a agriculture or the rural level, will be difficult for any kind of a agent to take up on those kind of a recoveries to be handled by them. This is something is a implementation issue, is a something we must have to think about it from the bank's point of view, whether this will cost increase, from the borrower's point of view, whether they certain part of the borrowers will be remaining a kind of untouched by the my banking sector or not. That is something is an important point to understand. But that does not mean, I am not telling that must not mean what RBI has told as a regulator of the banking system or regulator of the, this is a must. What is
Okay.
it? No issue.
Okay.
But these
In which
implementation
case,
issues
right,
are not to be
understood,
covered by
understood,
RBI.
sir. So, but in which case, my last question to you: Do you believe that this guideline doesn't strike a balance between borrowers' interest and lenders' interest? Because you believe that this could up the cost for lenders. There could be problems for lenders as far as recovering that loan is concerned.
Exactly, that is to some extent, yes, what you are saying is correct in the sense that from the point of view of the borrowers, this is a very much, and you can say welcome kind of a policies which RBI has given. Absolutely no issue about that. Borrowers would like to have it. Okay, particularly genuine borrowers who are basically not going to cheat the banks. It will be good practice for them from the bank's point from their point of view. The only issue what I am little bit of concerned about that, the if the cost of the borrowing to maintain this kind of recovery practice, if it increases,
Okay.
I don't know how substantial it will that, then will it actually affect some of the borrowers who are at the lower end of things? They become kind of a, banks will think that it will be not costly. I don't want to pay. I have a loan of 20,000, 50,000. Okay, that's the kind of things I said. Because it will be costly for me to actually maintain that loan.
Right,
Whether it will be
absolutely.
done or not, I am not sure.
Okay. So that remains, of course, a long road because right now the guidelines have come out. We'll have to see how lenders react to it and whether the cost of borrowing will go up as a result of higher cost to lenders for implementing these rules. But
Exactly.
that's all the time we have, sir. Thank you very much for taking
Thank
time
you.
out. I think it's a great initiative there by Reserve Bank of India, ensuring that all the borrowers are treated with respect, with dignity. That lenders, recovery agents don't just turn up at your doors, don't just threaten you, harass you, or call your family members when you're unable to pay in case of an adverse situation like a funeral or a family marriage where you're hoping a person to not come and intimidate you and to disrespect you in front of your entire family. And the RBI has now come up with strong guidelines on that as well.